Okay, I'll record this. I'm actually recording now. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the chat box so that we have it. Chat. Okay, that's one the website where we can get a keyboard, a virtual keyboard, and that's another one which has the notations of the keys. Different keys on the keyboard. It will help us later on during the course of the class. So now what I want to do is to illustrate high pitch and a low pitch. Now on the keyboard we have the black keys and the white keys. Later on we'll go into more detail, but I want to illustrate what the pitch is all about. So this is a low pitch. It's not too, the wavelength is long, but if the high pitch is here. So it's much more deeper, and this is a bit more light and almost screamier. Okay, so this is a high pitch, a high frequency, and that's a low frequency. Okay, so that's just quickly what we're talking about, one of the properties of music. Okay, now we're going to go to duration. We're talking about duration, how long a note is held. So for example, if I'm playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, right? Okay, so if I say, okay, so now if I play, okay, that those two, the duration or the time in between the first and the second note is almost the same. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's and then the distance for now. So I'll say, so there is a gap between. So if I come, this is 1. There's a pause here, and then I now come. So that interval between when I play this note and I go to How I Wonder. So that before I play the next, there's different times and duration where I hold this note. That's what I call duration. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I hold pause a bit and then I come back. So that difference between that and that key, the time difference between when I play this key and that key, it's different from the time difference of, okay, and then I pause a bit and I come. So between that, the distance where it took, the time it took for me to play this and that, and also the time it played for me to play Twinkle and How, Little Star, How so there's a difference in the time difference. That's what we're talking about, duration, and we'll talk about that in terms when we come to the shape of the notes and how they fit in. Duration normally talks about rhythm, so the pauses or the rests you have in any song. So that's where the duration comes in. Now the volume, like we mentioned earlier, volume is just how loud something is played. We shouldn't confuse it with the frequency or the pitch. Some volume is how loud. So if you increase the volume of, say, your MP3 player or your laptop volume, okay, that is different from pitch. You can have the same, you can be on the same frequency, but increase the volume. Okay, so the volume is just how loud you're playing. Pitch is how high you're playing. It has to do with wavelengths and frequencies. Okay, are we all clear? Do we have any questions? Any questions? Okay, please stop me if you have any questions. Okay, so if we're all clear, I'll go ahead. All right, so that's just properties of music. Okay, we're going to go ahead. Now, we're going into the to identify and name various elements on the music sheet. Now, before when we started, I showed us just an example of um, what we normally expect to find on the sheet music. So this is a sheet music. Now, I'm going to briefly explain something. So now, the way before we started to write down, we were speaking. Okay, our mode of communication was speaking at the beginning, and then it found out that later on we can transform what our words into writing, into text. So we can communicate via text, and we can pass the same meaning we have as though we were speaking. Okay, so likewise in music, right? When we are singing any kind of song, so you wake up in the morning and start to sing a song, you can also write that music out in forms of notes. And this is how, so this is how we write music. Okay, so we can write music in this form with these symbols, so we can compose or write any song we want. Okay, so we're going to break all this down and explain what all these symbols mean. Okay, all right. Okay, let me come out from here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the staff. Okay, we're going to talk about the staff. Now the staff consists of 5 parallel lines, 5 horizontal parallel lines, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Normally we start from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, the staff consists of 5 parallel lines and 4 equal spaces numbered from the bottom upwards. Okay, as you can see it here. So line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5. Okay, and bounded by these lines, we have 4 spaces: space 1, space 2, space 3, space 4. And remember, we always count from the bottom to the top. Okay, that's what a staff is. A staff just consists of 5 lines and 4 spaces. All right, that's what a staff is. Okay, now we're going to talk about a clef. Okay, before we go here, let's go quickly. I want us to read something here. Okay, so before we continue, go to the clef. Let's just see what this book says. Okay, now the staff. People were talking long before they invented writing. People were also making music long before anyone wrote any music down. Okay, and then some musicians can sing by ear. Okay, without written music, that would be too difficult. Many different types of music notation have been invented, and some, such as tablature, and are still in use. Okay, by far, the most widespread way to write music, however, is on a staff, of which we have said earlier. So, when we know what a staff is, it consists of 5 lines and spaces. We'll go into more detail with all this information. Okay, so we would continue with the clef, right? Now, the okay, go to the clef. Now, the first symbol that appears at the beginning of every music staff is a clef symbol. Okay, it is very important because it tells you which note A, B, C, D, E, or G is found on each line or space. Okay, for example, the treble clef symbol tells you that the second line from the bottom, okay, remember we always count from the bottom, the second line from the bottom, the line that the symbol calls around is a G. Okay, let's go back to our notes. So it says here, the clef is derived from Latin word clavis, meaning key. Okay, it is usually placed at the beginning of the staff. It determines how high the notes on the staff are. In music, we use the first 7 letters of the English alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All right. Now, we only use A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then after G, we don't say H. There's no H. In music, it only goes back to A, B, C. It continues. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. When you get to G, you continue and continue A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay. Now, we're going to go into the different types of clefs. Like we mentioned earlier, we talked about the treble clef. Okay, so there are 4 types of clef in music. Okay, we talk about the treble clef, alto clef, the tenor clef, and the bass clef, right? Generally, in music, we mostly deal with the treble and the bass clef. But for just interest and knowledge sake, we will just briefly go through all of them, but subsequently, we will be dealing with treble and the bass clef. Okay, so we're going to go to the treble clef or a G clef, right? Now, like we read earlier, the clef is just to help us identify what um, what letter is represented by a line. So it helps us to say, okay, when we see that clef, we understand, okay, that line, that where the clef surrounds a line, we know that it's a specific letter. And then from there, we can now use that to place all our other letters relative to the clef we are considering. Okay, so we're going to go into treble clef. All right, so treble clef or G clef, when placed on the stave, the treble clef originates from the second line, thus it fixes that line as G. In fact, the treble clef was originally a capital G. So, but subsequently now, we change and then we have this symbol. Now, this is a symbol for a treble clef or a G clef. Why is it called a G? Because if we notice the portions where all these lines meet, they meet on around this line here, which is a G. Now, this is our stave. We all know lines and spaces. And then the treble clef helps us to identify what letter is assigned to each of these lines. So, like we said, it's a G clef. Now, wherever, if you notice this symbol, it comes all the way up and then it wraps around this second line. Okay, so remember this is line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5. So if you see a sheet music and you see, okay, this is a treble clef, for example, you can easily identify, okay, this is our G, all right? And remember we said we have, in music, we have letters associated to with these lines and spaces. And it's A, B, C from A to G, and it continues again from A to G, all right? So it's a G clef because it wraps around this line, which is called the G line, okay? Because we can also call that G. Now, from this point, we could begin to fix the letter names of the other lines and spaces using the first 7 letters of the alphabet. So that's our treble clef or G clef, and this second line is our G, right? Now, remember, we're going to go up, and when we're going up, we're going to go up with the alphabet as well. So we're now going to go from G. This line is G, and the next space will be A, okay? The next space will be B. The next space will be C. The next line will be D. The next space will be E, F, and we can continue all the way, okay? We'll talk about this portion there. We'll talk about ledger lines later, okay? So it continues, and it can continue. So when we're talking about now the pitch, right, we can have notes way above on top of this portion, and that's now at a higher pitch. So we also, if we need to transcribe or know what this note is, we need to still carry on completing these letters to find out what that note is. Okay, and it's likewise. So from our G we can also go up and we can also go down. We're going down, we also go backwards in the alphabet. So it's G, the line G, and then the space F, and then the line E. Okay, and we can still go down to more of a lower pitch or lower frequency, like we mentioned earlier. Okay, we'll talk about that later. All right. So please, if you have any questions, just raise your hands, and then we can um, attend to the questions. All right. So in our treble clef, so this is what. So if you're asked what is a treble clef, you know that number one, it's also a G clef. What does that mean? It means that where this symbol, the clef symbol, wraps around the line, we know that that line is the G. From there, we can complete all the letters of the alphabet going up as well as going down. So for the space, the line, the space, the line, and we just populate the letters and we have that. Okay. Now, if we try to separate the letter names of the lines and spaces, we would have the following. Okay, so to easily identify how to easily read this and to easily know, okay, sometimes you may not, you may struggle to remember, okay, what this, if you see this clef, you might forget, okay, oh, this is actually a G. But if we separate the lines and spaces, okay, based on these letters, we can easily know, okay, that's the letters that fall into these spaces, that's the letters that fall into the line. And then we can easily um, determine what note we are working on. Okay, so we're separating the lines and spaces here. So we have for each line we have E, G, B, D, and F. Okay, and then for the spaces we have F, A, C, E, face. And now this is only applicable for the treble clef. Okay, now this is what we will have: lines and spaces. For the treble clef, the lines and spaces for the treble clef, after we've written this out, we will have, from the bottom, we will have, from this bottom here, we're going to always go E, G, B, D, F. We're going to go upwards. So every good boy does fine. Okay? Every good boy does fine. Some people also, we can also use the term, the different ways you can remember this. Okay, so people can say deserves. Okay, um, and you can say here this is, say, Fanta. Okay, or you can say this is a fudge. So people have used either of these to help them to remember what these lines and spaces are, because they always come in handy when you're trying to read music. Okay. Okay, I see Cooley has a connection is not that great. Yes, okay, so sorry about that. We're recording the class, so we will ensure to um, sure to share the video after, the class so you can have access. Okay, can we all see the screen?
Yes, we're seeing.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so for treble clef, we have lines and spaces. So to easily to remember what the lines are and the spaces are, we say every good boy does fine. I personally use every good boy deserves Fanta or deserves fudge. So you can, whatever mnemonic works for you, that that's actually will work for any case. Okay, every good boy does fine. Every good boy deserves Fanta. Every good boy deserves fudge, whichever works. And then for the spaces, we have FACE, face. okay, just faces E. So this is quite important for you to know, because we'll mostly, for most of the songs we'll be dealing with moving forward, we'll be looking at the treble clef. Okay, so it's easy for you when you identify, if you have a note there, for example, you need to identify, okay, what letter is this note? Is it F? Is it a G? Is it a A? So when you know these acronyms for each line and each space, you can easily identify, okay, I'm on the fourth space. So if I start from here and say F, A, C, E, okay, that's E. Okay, so that's the treble clef. All right, so we will go to the alto clef. Okay, um, we have an alto clef, not mostly common, but it's just something for us to know. We'll just brush through this one. Okay, the alto clef is a special symbol. It has two curves that meet on the third line of the stave, thus fixing that line as C. Okay, now we have, that's a symbol we have. So that's a symbol of an alto clef. It's normally, it represents the line, the line of C. Okay, so if you notice how the shape is, everything centers around there, and we call that our line C. The line is C. So same thing as the treble clef, we can run from C. We can, the next space here will be D. The line will be E, F, G, and we can go down. We'll say that's B, that's A, that's G. Okay, so the names of the other lines and spaces could be fixed from this point, like we just mentioned there. Okay, all right, so always remember, we don't have H. When we go to G, when we get to G, we come back to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All right, and again, if we separate them, we have that lines and spaces. We commonly separate a staff into lines and spaces to easily identify the notes. Okay, we also have a tenor clef. The tenor clef is almost the same as the alto clef. However, its two curves meet on the fourth line of the staff. Hence, it is fixed. It fixes that line as C. Okay. So there we have it. So the tenor clef just shifts a bit up to the next line, and it's also C. And then from there, we can now easily identify the lines and spaces for that. Okay, so we're going to go to the second common clef. Remember, the first common clef is a treble clef, and this, I would say, the second common is the bass clef. Okay, in the sheet music I have here, as we can see, that's our treble clef, and that's our bass clef. Okay, ignore the other symbols. We'll get to that later on. But that's our treble clef. You see, it's always, if you see a treble clef, it will always be wrapped around the second line from the bottom. Okay, and like, so we're going to talk about the bass clef. So looking at that, we can now identify, okay, what letter is that? What letter is that? What letter is that? What letter is that? Okay, we'll go through exercises today, so at least we can understand very well what we're talking about. So I'll quickly run through this. So this is a treble clef. Now remember that there, any note you see on this line, it's a G, 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 G. Okay, and we get here, that would be what, an F. Okay, now to find what this is, we can either say, okay, I can find out, okay, this is G. Since this is G, my space above G would be A, the next line will be B, the next space will be C, and that will be a D. Okay, alternatively, we can say, according to lines and spaces, my line, remember, it's every good boy does fine, and our space is F-A-C-E, face. So we notice that, okay, what note is this? This is on the line. So like, okay, I need to know what are the acronyms for the mnemonics for my lines. So I would say every good boy D. So those are two ways, different ways we can find out what this note is. Okay. Okay, I'm just trying to see if you asked the question. Um, okay. All right. Yes, I will send through these notes to us on the group after the class, as well as the textbook that we have here. So later on we can listen to the recording. All right. Okay, so we're going to go to the bass clef. Now, the bass clef or the F clef. All right, we see that the bass clef, which is also known as F clef, okay, originates from the fourth line of the stave. Okay, now remember the stave, the plural for staff is a stave. Okay, just to refresh our memory, that's the staff. Okay, if we have many staffs, we will call that a stave. Okay, and also to note, the moment now as a staff consists of only, as we said earlier, lines and spaces. Okay, the moment we bring in a clef and we attach it to this staff, it becomes a stave. Okay, so like here, for example, if we do not have this clef, this symbol on here, and we only have these lines, we call that a staff. But the moment we attach a clef to it, the staff, we automatically now call it a stave. Also, the same way, if we have multiple, you see the staffs with these symbols, we call that a stave. All right. So coming back to the bass clef, I was explaining that. Okay, so the bass clef, which is also known as F clef, originates from the fourth line of the stave, thus fixing the line as F. In fact, that line F is delineated through the use of two dots. Okay, like a colon, a full colon sign. There we have it. So that is the symbol for a bass clef with two dots. If in a normal music class, though you're required normally to draw this out and practice how to draw the treble clef and a bass clef. But for now, just at least master it. I don't think they may tell you to draw it out in the assessments that are coming up, but it's good to identify them and know it when you see it. So this is a bass clef. It has almost like a curve like that and two dots. If you notice, everything is surrounding this line. Okay, and it's called an F clef because by default a bass clef is wrapped around that, so that's our F. So if we now want to run our alphabets, we start from F. When we're going up the alphabet, we say G on the space, and then A will be on that line. Okay, coming back to the fourth line, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's F for a bass clef. Okay, if we want to now run the alphabets going down, we will say E, D, okay, C, B, A, and then G, and then F. Okay, all right. So once again, we could fix the letter names of the remaining lines and spaces using our ABC, ABCDFG alphabets. So there we have it. So that's our bass clef, and it's wrapping around the fourth line from the bottom, and that is it over there. Okay, now we run it up, that's A, and then we run it down all the way to G. Okay, now remember, another way to identify our bass clefs and easily identify our notes is to split our lines and spaces. Okay, and when we do that, for our lines, we have from the bottom, Okay, always remember we read from the bottom going up. So G, that's one. The first line is G, second line B, third line D, fourth line F, and then the fifth line is A. G, B, D, F, A. And the mnemonic we always use is um, good boy does fine always. Okay, good boy does fine always. Alternatively, you can come up with the best way for you to remember this. My teacher, I got it from my teacher. He uses, and I also adopted that. You could also say green, okay? Green birds, okay? Green birds don't fly away. Okay, you could use this. Green birds don't fly away, or good boy does fine always. Whichever works for you. This green birds don't fly away is, I always use that. Okay. No one would actually tell you that, okay, there's no fixed one to use as long as you come up with your way to recognize the lines, the letters for the lines of the treble clef and as well for the bass clef. Okay, so now for the spaces, all cows eat grass. So our first space is A, second space C, second space E, and G. That's our fourth space. All cows eat grass. Mostly by default, everyone uses this. For the spaces, if you noticed well, it's mostly a common, you will realize it's just common. All cows eat grass. This is mostly, I also use this as well. For the treble clef, FACE, remember that, face for the spaces. And for the treble clef, for the bass clef is all cows eat grass. Okay. For the lines for the bass clef is green birds don't fly away or good boy does fine always. Okay, and then for the treble clef, we have every good boy does fine or every good boy deserves Fanta or every good boy deserves fudge. Whichever you're comfortable with, you will need this, in the history of music, of your music career. All right. So, like I mentioned earlier, please note that a staff that has a clef opening it becomes a stave. So, like we mentioned earlier, when we introduce a staff to when we introduce a clef to a staff, then it becomes a stave. All right. So, I believe we've captured that. And I believe we understand fully. So let's quickly run through this. I would love to run through this as well, just for us to understand. So, okay, we'll come back to the stuff later and talk about a few things on that. Um, let's see what we have here. So let's talk about clef. Okay, there you go. For more understanding. And okay, so we're going to go to the clefs. Okay, I see Obile, Nkobile. I saw your hand raised. Do you have any question? Okay. All right. So we'll go to talking about clef. So treble clef and bass clef. The first symbol that appears at every beginning of every music staff is a clef symbol. It is very important because uh, it tells you which note A, B, C, D, F, or G is found on each line of space. For example, the treble clef symbol tells you that the second line from the bottom, the line that the symbol curls around, is G. Okay, on any staff, the notes are always arranged so that the next letter is always on the next higher line or space. The last note, letter G, is always followed by A. Okay, we don't go to H, it follows with an A. And there we have it. Okay, treble clef symbol, start with a G, or you can, when you have a treble clef, you know, okay, F-A-C-E, just write in a space F-A-C-E. And then in your lines, you say, every good boy deserves Fanta. Who likes Fanta here? Okay, I love Fanta, but sometimes Fizzies are not so good. Anyways, let's not digress. Yes, so yes, so Fanta. It's been a while I had Fanta, but anyways, it reminded me of Fanta. Okay, so the bass clef. A bass clef symbol tells you that the second line from the top, the one bracketed by the symbol's dot, is F. Okay, there we have it. The notes are still arranged in ascending order, but they are all in different places than they were in treble clef. Okay. If you can't remember the lines and spaces, we can say, okay, the bass clef is an F clef. Why? Because it wraps around the line, and that is an F. There we go. And then from there, you can run through, run down. But you can also go the option of saying, okay, what are the lines and spaces? All cows eat grass for the bass clef, and green birds don't fly away. Okay, or good boy does fine always. Okay, so that is the bass and treble clefs. There are other clefs, they are good for knowledge, but they're not very, very common, and we may not be using them actually very often. So, but the bass clef and treble clef are important. Okay, so memorizing the notes in the bass clef. Okay, we've done that. One of the first steps in learning to read music in a particular clef is memorizing where the notes are. Many students prefer to memorize the notes and spaces separately. Okay, here are some of the most popular mnemonics used. There you go. We have that every good boy does fine. Every good boy deserves fudge. That's a treble clef. And then treble clef again for the space. Face. That's always very easy. The bass clef. Green birds don't fly away. Good boys deserve fudge always. Good boys do fine always. That's for the line. Then for the space, all cows eat grass. That's just general. Always have this. Okay. All right. And then we have the clefs, alto treble clefs, which we have discussed. Okay. So we are going to talk about, I believe we've got that in check. Do we have any questions before we move on? Any questions? Can we all hear me? Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm here.
You're hearing me, all right. Is everything clear? No questions? Sorry? Okay. We will have a much more interactive session later on. And yeah, I think we'll come to get grabs with it very well. Okay, so before we'll go to the next, ledger lines and bar lines. Okay. So remember we have, let's quickly go here to the top. Okay, so remember we have a staff. and the staff is made up of 5 lines and 5 spaces. We have many staffs, we call it staves. The plural of staff is a stave. Most of the notes of the music are placed on one of these lines or spaces, as we mentioned. Extra ledger lines may be added to show a note that is too high, you remember, or too low to be on the staff. That's where the pitch is too high. Not that it's the volume wise, but it is the pitch is high and or the pitch is low. So remember, if we have, say, there, um, what we have here is, say, for example, we have, I'll go to that one there. So there, our C, say, for example, this C is this one we have here. Okay. All right. Or we can alternatively say that C there. Okay. Or say we have that C, for example, C, E, F. All right. I'm going to bring the other one here quickly. Okay, so we have C, G, D, F. So we are here C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So if we are to say our C there is this C, for example, that C, for example, and we say D, E, F. If you notice the pitch is going quite high, and because we cannot put we the C is on what? The C is on the space, right? The C is on the space there, and the D is on the line, and the E is on the F, and the G. Now, this G is too high, the pitch is high, but in music it still exists. But then normally the way to represent it on this staff is to have a ledger line. Okay, now this is what we call a ledger line. That's a ledger line. So like we said, we noticed that we had a C here, a D, E, F, and then G was here, and then A and B and C. So ledger lines will come in where when we have a higher pitch or the key's high, and so the pitch is as well high. And so we put like a ledger line to say, okay, that's where it falls. We wouldn't reconstruct this whole stuff and duplicate it on top here and say it's another one. No, we will rather represent these higher pitched notes with a ledger line. Likewise, if we have a very low pitch note, we will place it at the bottom down here. Okay, similar to there, but it will just be at the bottom because it's a low pitch. Okay, so that's what a ledger line is. Okay, so represented there and there. The key is high to be represented on this stave, so we still represent it by putting it on ledger lines. Okay. All right, so like I mentioned, there you go. We have, okay, extra ledger lines may be added to show a note that is too high or too low to be on the staff. Okay, vertical bar lines divide the staff into short sections called measures and bars. Okay, so this is what we call. So we normally separate a staff with lines, bar lines, which represents a specific number of notes based on this number, based on the time signature. We will talk about time signatures later, but if you see there, okay, you noticed on this, you see that line there, that line there, and that line there, that's a bar line. It's just used to separate sections of the song together to easily identify, so for example, normally when in a big or large orchestra, um, for the conductor to tell them, okay, we're going to start from a specific portion of this sheet music. They wouldn't say, okay, no, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to start here, for example. No, they will say, We're going to start on bar 5, which would mean this is bar 1, that's bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, bar 5. So we'll say, okay, we're starting from here. So all the orchestra or people playing the instruments or singing will count, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they'll count or here and say, okay, that's where we are starting from. So that's where the bar lines come in. So it's either called a bar or a measure. Okay, so this line, the line is called a bar line. Okay, the space in between bounded by these bar lines is called a bar or a measure. Okay, so that's a bar line, and yep. Okay, vertical bar lines. Okay, like we mentioned here, vertical bar lines divide the stuff into short sections called measures or bars. Okay, the, you need to know that. Okay, a double bar line, either heavy or light, is used to mark the ends of larger sections of music, um, including the very end of a piece, which is marked by a heavy double bar line. So that's a that's a double bar line. Okay, it's just to separate large sections of a song. For example, normally they separate the verse of a song with the chorus. Okay, they normally represent separated with a bar line. And normally the end of a song is represented by a heavy or a double bar line. Okay, always note that music on the staff is read from left to right. So we start from here, we go all the way. So here, we start from here and we read all that. Continue. Please don't get confused with this. Don't worry, it looks a bit complicated, but it's very easy once you understand it. But we're going step by step. Okay, so we know ledger lines, we know note on a line, note on a space, we know the clef symbol. We will talk about key signatures later, we'll talk about time, and this comes in, this time talks about duration. Remember, one of the properties of music, duration. So this symbol here helps us to understand the duration of the song. Okay. And things like that talks about the volume, dynamic marks. We won't go into that. So for now, we won't bother ourselves with that. Okay. So come back to this note. We know about the ledger line. We know about the bar line. It divides a piece of music into equal bars or measures. The double bar line signifies the end of a piece or music or the end of a part. A bar line is the equal division of a piece of music. It is also known as a measure. Okay, so that's it. Any questions? Questions? We're very quiet. Seems like we are getting, I didn't receive any raised hands, so I think we've got this very in check. Okay, so let me just check through this if there's any other thing. Okay, so we're going to go to have some exercises. Okay, we're going to go through some exercises to recap what we have done. So there we have something like this. That's a ledger line. So we have there, the notes fall outside there. And we're going to have a note above this B, so we need to put a ledger line there. Okay. And always remember, in a sheet music, the C there is the same as the C on the first ledger line about on the bass clef is equal to the C on the um, first ledger line before the start of the first line of the treble clef. So okay, so that's the sound. The sound is the same. The note is the same. So sometimes in music we find ourselves when we're in treble clef, we're singing, and the note is way down here. We kind of like almost going into the lower pitch. into the bass clef. Sometimes we're in the bass, and then the bass people have to go higher, and they might be entering into the treble clef. Now, more information about the treble and bass clef. Treble clef is more higher pitch sound, and with females, they have more. Before I, that's page 12. Let's read something quickly. Some interesting fact about normally who sings the treble and who sings the the bass. Something I'm looking for. I hope I find it. Okay, same person, Stave. But what I was going to say, I might find. I think I remember where I found it. Okay, just give me a minute. Might be able to find it. But generally, speaking of the treble clef and the bass clef, ladies generally have a higher pitch. They are able, by nature, able to pitch higher keys. Okay, the men generally have lower pitches, lower frequencies, so they have a deep voice. Ooh, okay, so they go to the bass. They mostly sing the bass clef. So people who sing the bass clef are, well, majority males. They sing the bass and the tenor as well. Okay, the ladies know mostly sing the soprano. They have a more higher pitch. Ah, okay, they have a more higher pitch, so they go that to the range of the treble clef. So normally in music we divide the parts into soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. Soprano and tenor sing in the treble clef, and the bass and tenor sing in the bass clef. Okay. Well, the information I just gave you now was is what I'm actually looking for, but I don't think I will find it. Um, Regarding who sings where, and mostly female singers sing the treble. Men normally, so if the normal sound of a song, okay, anyone can sing on the treble clef, anyone. But there's some cases soprano singers can. They, people are generally gifted with a higher pitch, so they sing like very high notes. People are gifted. So when you are in a music group, okay, based on your talent, based on the choir master can easily identify your strength. Generally, you're gifted with a deep voice. They'll automatically put you in the bass. Normally, you are a male, but you can't go that deep, so you would rather go to the tenor. You have a bit more higher range. Okay. For sisters, they would by default most sisters have higher pitch, so they're going to the sopranos. They sing very high, those on that range. There's some sisters also have also a deeper voice, so they go to the alto, so they sing more of the lower pitch sound. So that's the dynamics of music. So yes, that's uh, also interesting information. All right, we have 45 minutes and we're going to go through exercises. All right, so exercise number 1.1. Are we ready? Are we ready? Okay. Okay. So write the name of each note below the note on each staff in figure 1.12. Okay. That is figure 1.12. And so I'll give us how many minutes? I'll give us 1 minute to so just what you can do is just put your answers on the chat box. Okay, so I want us to put our answers on the chat box so we know what this is. Okay, based on all that, what we have done, what is the letters of these symbols? That. Okay, what are the letters of these symbols? Privately, send them to me, so that this is more a quick exercise. This is our assignment, but we're doing it as a classwork. Okay, so we are going to start. I'm going to time us quickly. In 1 minute, we're going to do this. Um, there'll be some extra time, but we will see. So just a minute, let me see. I know some of us have already started, but that's fine. Um, we're going to do this in 1 minute, and you may start. Okay. Inbox, put it on the my private chat so I can see what are the symbols of these notes. $30 left. I think this is too fast. Perhaps I will give you another minute. Okay, you have another minute. One more minute. 9 seconds, 7 seconds, 6 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we will start again. One more minute. So in total, 2 minutes. There you go. I've seen someone. Thank you very much. We will work through this together after we're done. Maybe I should give us more time. If you need more time, please raise your hand. I think, yeah, we need more time. Okay. All right. Okay, another minute. I'll give us one more minute again. So at least I can gauge how much we need on the next exercise. Okay, thank you. I've seen another response. Okay. Our attendance today is not very strong. I think people are having challenges with connection. I hope the time is fine for everyone. Okay. All right. I think we'll proceed. Okay. Thank you for those who have responded. I can see. Thank you, Sister Sipokazi and Sister Praise. All right. I've seen your answers. Okay, we're going to work through this together. Okay. All right. So, first of all, when we have a stave like this, what do we do first? First thing first is to What is the clef? Okay, we can ignore all this, but we need to understand what clef we're dealing with to be able to say, okay, this is a letter, this is a letter, because remember, the symbols and the letters for these are different for a treble clef and a bass clef. Okay, so we're dealing with the treble clef here. If, say, for example, we don't have any clef here, and we have notes here, then it's going to be something else. We're not going to be sure. Okay, it can mean anything. Okay, so we first things first is okay. First things first is first. Number one, okay, that's our clef. We're dealing with a treble clef here. So what does that mean? It means that, remember, treble clef is also a G clef. What does that mean? It means that the portion that this treble symbol wraps around, the line, we can see that it curls around this line here, and that's our G. Okay, so this line is G. There you go. Okay, that's G. Okay, so we will put there G. This man over here is G. Okay, that's a bit big. Okay, properties. G, that's it's a bit too small, but we'll put it there. That line is our G. Okay, that actually did not. But anyways, if I think I can draw on this, it will be easier. Okay, what we'll do is this. Easier. We will say, okay, let us go to a workspace where we can do this. Okay, and we will quickly take a snapshot of this. Okay, that's what we have there, and we are going to go here. Okay, so that's what we have. Okay, so that's our treble clef. Now, okay, so remember, like we said, that's our G here. That's G. Okay, and remember we said there's different ways to do this. We can run all the alphabets A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G going up, or alternatively, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G going up and then going down as well. F, E going down. Okay. Alternatively, we can say what are the lines and what are the spaces. Okay. Remember, we can also say, okay, remember our spaces is F, A, okay, C, E. Okay, that's our spaces. Okay, spaces for that. That's a space, that's a space, that's a space, that's a space. Okay, and then we have our, what's this? Our lines. Okay, our lines is what again? So one easy way to remember is, okay, if this is our space, this is F, and obviously that's G. If we go down, if we're going down the alphabet, so that's G, F, E, E, F, G. So that's the first one is E. E, always remember we're going from the bottom to the top when we're reading music. And our mnemonics always start from the bottom to the top. So F was here, E was here, A, C, E. So we will go from bottom to the top and write it like that. But now we have a line, so we say E, every good boy deserves Fanta. So every, okay, and then G, good, that's boy, deserves Fanta. Okay, now that we have this, we can assign these to our what we are doing. Okay, so we're going to now work it out and see whether what we got is right. So let's go. That's F. Our space is F. Our line is A. Okay. Our thing is C, and that's E. Okay. And then our lines is E. Every good G. Remember, that's our clef there. F clef, and that's our G. Okay. Every good boy B deserves Fanta. Okay. There you go. So now what's our answer to the question we have? Okay, I don't know why that's that. Okay, so there you go. Now, easily, our first note is on the line. Okay, our first note, so we're reading it according to the black dots. So now this is a note. We will discuss later what these notes are and the names of these notes, but maybe I did, sorry if I didn't explain earlier, but that the dot is where what we are considering. Okay, so where the dot lies, we see that this dot is in the space, it's on a line, it's on a space there, it's on a below the ledger line and all that. Okay, so first things first, we start from here. Remember, we read music from left to right. That is not a nice color. I'm just going to choose red. Okay, so remember, we read music from left to right. Okay, so we're starting from there. Now that's E. Okay, our first note is E. Next, we go to the next one. It is that. There you go. It's on a line. But what line is it? E, G, B. Okay, that's a B. Okay. The next one is a what? It's a C. Okay, it's on a space. Remember? So I'm like, okay, so what's the space? It's F there, A, and C. Okay, that's a C. We have it there. C. Okay. And then we have this one over there. Ooh, but it's outside. Okay. We can still run the alphabet, not a problem. So we say, okay, we can start from this line. There's D, E, F. So one thing we can remember is it always goes up with the alphabet. So we have a G here. We can still go A, B, C, D, E, F. And the next space, that's a line. And the next space, F, G. So that's a G. Okay. We've done that. Now here, we're on G. Easy way to quickly identify is, okay, if I'm on G here, that's G. I'm going down the alphabet. I'm going down, all the way down. So I need to go backwards on the alphabet. Okay, so that's G, and that's F, space, and that's E. That's going back to E. Okay, and that's E, and then we can decide to go down or easily just say it's on the space. So from the bottom, F, A, C, E. So F, A, that's A. Okay, and then that there, every good boy deserves D. That's a D. Then we can start here again. I think it's normally easy to start from this line here, or whichever one you have. You can start from the space to say, okay, that's my F. But now my note is below, so I need to go backwards in the alphabet. F, E, and D. Yeah, but wait. Yes, that's a lower D. Okay, so interesting. So this is a D, right? A D here, and that's also a D. Now, if you play these two, we're going to have something like that. It's just a higher pitch. So that D there. So for example, we have two Ds at the same, but they sound differently. The D we have here, it's a higher, it's above, it's a bit, so we're going upwards, so it's a bit high than this one, it's a bit lower. Remember, below this clef, we have the G clef, and that's what we always see in the general arrangement for all songs is the bass clef is always below the treble clef. So everything going down is going deeper and having a lower pitch. If we're going higher, we're going into a higher pitch. Okay. So what we have here is we have a higher D up here, but we have another D. The difference in them is they sound different. So we can say this D is higher. We can say that's D there. Okay, that's our D. And then the D below, since it's lower, it's going to have a lower pitch. Okay, they are the same sound, but the pitch is different. It's a higher pitch, but it's the same. Okay. All right. So let's continue. That's D. Now we have a D here. We can go back to our basics. That's E. Every good boy on the line. So we can go back down and say E. That's D. That's a C. That's a B. Okay. And then, whoa, we have something far up there. So we can say, fine, we can still do the count again. And we can say FACE. Okay. And then we can say, okay, I want to rather, if this is E, then I'll say that's F, and that's G, and that's A, and that's B, that's C. Okay, we have a C there. And finally, the second line is every good, that's G. Okay, well done to those who got it. Ah, that's great. I see we are on board. Tolu, are we following? Okay, before the time goes, let's go to another exercise now that we're familiar with this. Okay, so we are going to go to the next exercise, that one. Okay, this is our next exercise, this one. So let us identify the notes on this one. Okay, we're going to do that, and so that we're not confused. Okay. Okay, there we go. Let's identify the notes on this. I will give us 3 minutes. Starting now. Okay. 3 minutes. Okay. We have, okay, 2 minutes, 1 minute and a few seconds. Actually, this is the same as the positions of the notes are the same as on the previous clef. So it could be tricky. Can be a tricky one. Okay, thank you. We've got one response. Congrats to those who got the first one right. Wait, let me even see. I didn't even check if you actually. Okay, there you go. Wait, okay. I see there was some errors in some of ours. Okay, we'll talk about it after we're done. Okay. BCCF. I think we can mark ourselves on the previous exercise because I can see we did. Okay, phrase. Okay, let me just check. Okay, I think you're still busy with this. Okay, we have. Ah, sorry, I wasn't timing you very well. Your time is up actually. Okay, so um, on the previous exercise, let's see, E, C, G for praise. I think you, yeah, you missed. I think instead of a G, you put an F, just to confirm if I am correct. Yes, three, so that's a G, yes, okay. And E, A, D, D, I think, yes, D, D, A, A, C, G, all right. Okay, and then this is a simple Kazi, let's see. E, B, C. Okay, I think we are. I think there's a common error in this one here, in this fourth one there. Okay, so remember it's not on the line; it's on the space above this line. So we can remember we in ledger lines we can still go up and up and up. So when we're doing it, we create our own ledger line. So remember, there's a line. Let me look for a black line. There's a black line here, an imaginary black line there. Okay, like we have here, this line imaginary continues there. Okay, it's like another line, but we normally don't show it in music. Okay, all right. Okay, and then that's F E. Okay, that's E A C. Okay, yeah. So there's a couple of, yeah. So this one, the last second to the last one. Okay, we got that. That's good. And then G. That's a G there. Okay. So I see. Okay, I only see one response to our second question. Okay, we will go through it and we'll go through it now. All right. Okay, let's go again. We'll go through the same process. This is what? A bass clef. Remember, that's a bass clef. Alternatively, it is also known as an F clef. Am I right? Yes, I am right. Okay. It is also known as the F clef. We can go back to our notes. Okay, you might not have the notes now, but I will make them available. That is F. Okay. Now, so we're going to just quickly run through spaces. Okay, spaces for this. Remember, so if this is F, if this is F, our space there, then we can run everything. So remember, we alphabetically up, alphabetically down. Okay, so that's F, and that's going to be G, and that's going to be A. Okay, that will be A. Okay, so from there, we already know from our construction, we see that our spaces should be all cows eat grass. Okay, and our lines will be green birds don't fly away. How did we get that? So let's quickly run through together. That's F. Okay, and the next one is G. Okay, all right. And normally what you could do as well is to say we have another line there and another line there and another line there. Okay, remember we'll continuously go through it. So that's A, okay, A, and then the next one is B. Next space is B. Next line is C, okay, and the next one is uh, D. Next one is E, the line there. Okay, going down, we will have A, B, C, D, E, F. That's E there. And before E, we have a D. Oh, sorry. Before E, we will have a D. Before D, we have C. Before C, we have B. Okay, before B, we have A. That's going down the opposite direction. And then remember now, we're not going to go to Z, but we will go to G. Okay, that's a G there. Okay, and then if we have notes that happen to be at the bottom here, we will have in this space, that's a G line. In this space, we will have G, and that will be F, and that will be E. So that's E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, all the way through. So remember now so this is what we have. So if we notice A, C, all cows eat grass. So there, from the bottom, remember we're going up. All cows eat grass, all the spaces. And the lines we have green, G, birds don't fly away. Okay, so with that, we've constructed that. Now we can go to identifying what these letters are. So the first one is a G, we have there. Next one is D. Next one is E. Okay, that's there, E there, all the way there. And then the next one is, what do we have? That's a B. The next one there, we have G. The next one here, all the way there, we have a C. Okay, next one there, we have what? It's on the line of F. So remember, that is on the line. Sorry, my line's a bit. See, remember, it's an F clef or bass clef. So we have F there. Okay, there it's on the bottom. We also can draw ledger lines to complete that. Now we have F again. See, so we have, and previously we had D. Okay, previously those two D's. Now we have two F's. Okay, and then we can from here we know we're already going down. So F, and that's going to be E. That's going to be D. Okay, it's on the space, and then that would be that's B, C, D, and then E. Okay, that's E, and then B. All right. Okay, so there you go. Praise. Do you understand now? Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right. So that's how we do it. Okay. So there's a last exercise for us to do. This will be very, very interesting. So there. Okay. We will leave the auto clef for now. This is our next exercise. Okay. So if we notice in this one, okay, we're going to choose a clef in which you need to practice recognizing notes above and below the staff. In figure 1.1.3, write the clef sign at the beginning of the staff and then write the correct notes below each note. Okay. So I have actually assigned some for us. We will have a look. So this is what we have. Okay, put that there. I think we have about, say, 15 minutes left. Let's quickly do this. There we go. All right. There. now. So the following people will do. So I don't know if how many people are here. So Tolu will do treble. We'll have a treble clef and identify the notes on this, the keys for these notes. Kuli will do a treble as well. Kuli will do treble. The Sipokazi will do a bass clef. And then Praise will also do a bass clef. Okay. Do we all understand? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Tolu. Okay, so you will, for this, can you see, if you can see the screen, you will identify the letters of these notes for a treble clef. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay. You can write it down somewhere, and then I'll give us maybe 5 minutes to go through that. Okay, let's actually practically do it. I think we should practically do it together. All right. Let's see how best this would work. Okay, we'll make it rather interactive. Okay, Tolu. What key is, what note letter is this for this note here? For a treble clef. So if we have
I don't know.
you don't know. Okay. Have you been following though?
Not really. I had Kononia as well during that
Okay,
time. So
I see.
it was hard to follow.
You had to follow. Okay.
Kononia 8 also. So it's just,
Okay, no problem. Okay, so just follow along. I believe someone in the group can assist. Praise, can you help us? For a treble clef, what note, what letter is represented by this note? Okay, you can unmute your mic and then help us. Let's see. At least others can benefit. For treble clef,
It's D.
it is D. How did you get D? Your mic, it doesn't work. Okay, it is D. Let's find out if that.
Yeah, it's D.
It is D. Okay. All right, it's D. How did you get there? Maybe you can.
Okay.
Yes.
For treble clef, right?
Oh, Subokazi. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Continue.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you can continue.
For treble clef, you know that it curves or anchors around G line.
There you go. Yes, that's there. Yeah.
And then you know below G you have. I'm sorry, I have a call.
Okay. All right. All good. I'll see if.
Okay. All right. I'm. Okay.
Okay.
Where
Continue.
am I? Okay. Below G you have F.
Okay.
And then below F you have E.
Okay.
That's the last line. And then below E you have D.
You have D. Okay.
Oh no, it's below. Wait. Wait. Where?
Okay. So this is the note we're looking for. The letter for this note here.
Okay.
Yeah. You can keep going. Okay, so remember you did very well by identifying this letter G, And remember, for if the staff goes down, even these lines, it continues. So G F D E, G F E D C. You know, it keeps going all the way down. Okay. Okay. Praise also said D. Okay, so Kuli. Is this Kuli? Can you hear us?
Okay, we are on E, right? It's C.
Is it C? Okay, so it is C. Okay, so it's G F E D, right? Is it on C? What about this line here? Okay, because so it's G E. So as you increase, go to the next step, the letters either decrease or increase. So if you're going down, you're decreasing. So it's G F D E D. All right, and what this is going to be what C here, and that would be B. So this note is B. Okay, you understand? So that's a that's this E is on the line. Fine, that's great. Now going down again in the next space is a D. The next line is a C, and the next space is a B. So that note is a B because the note is just below this line. Is it clear? Do we get it? Okay, we'll try another example quickly. Okay, so let's try another one. Let's get a much more simpler one. This one looks very, very, very challenging, but no, we can do it. I believe we can. Okay, let's see if there's another. Okay, let's try this one. Let's try this. What is the key symbol for this on the treble clef? Okay, just quickly get my bearings quickly. Okay, there you go. All right, so what note is this here? What note is that one there? Who can help us? Who wants to try? Okay, Tolu, are you there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here, sir.
Are you here? Okay, great. So I want to quickly run through this with you. So I think since you're not around, just a recap for everyone. I think it's a bit okay. So there's something we call treble clef and bass clef, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then um, for a treble clef is represented by this symbol. Okay, and
Yes, sir.
we have something called a staff. A staff is consists of lines and spaces. 4 lines, 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4
Yes, sir.
spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, the treble clef is also called the G clef because in music we have about say letters A to G. We used to represent music. So from the letters alphabet A to G, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7 letters. Okay. Now,
Yes.
when we wrap this around G, okay, this symbol is wrapping around G, which tells us that this line takes a G letter by default.
Mm.
So that's why this symbol, if you notice, is wrapping around this second line here. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's G. Now, if we identify, when we've identified that, we now write out our letters of our alphabet. So that, remember, that's wrapping around that. So that's G. And the next space is A. Next one is B, C. So the next space is A. The next line is B. The the next space is C, continuously, and then even going down the alphabet, we do it in ascending order. Okay, so that's that. Then we now have a bass clef. Okay, bass clef is also known as is F clef, meaning where it wraps around the line at which it wraps around. We call that line F. It holds the letter F. Okay, and the same thing we will on the F clef or the bass clef, we run, that's our F there. We also run the alphabets all the way through. Okay, so to easily recognize, another way to recognize what symbols we have for these lines and spaces for a treble clef, we normally divide the lines into mnemonics. So every good boy deserves Fanta, fudge, or does fine. Okay, with these mnemonics, and then the spaces we have FACE. So FACE for a treble clef, because remember it wraps around G, so that's going to be a G, and then based on what we have here, we separated this uh, configuration we have here, we separated into lines and spaces. So the lines we have E, G, B, D, F. For spaces we have face. Okay. So with that being said, we'll quickly run to this exercise again, and I see Praise has responded. Thank you very much, Praise. You responded very. That's correct. So okay, so to return now for a treble clef, right? We have these. This is our stuff: 5 lines and 4 spaces, right? So what we will do now is, sorry, that's supposed to be there. Okay, we have 5 lines and 4 spaces. Okay, now remember, for it is a the thing, the line goes something like this, and it wraps around that. This is very horrible. I drew this very wrong, but this is our G clef, and so that would be our G. Remember, right?
Yes, sir.
And then this would be, we're going up, so that would be A, our next space, and that would be our B. That's going to be C. That's going to be D. That's going to be E. It's going to be F on that line if the line continues there. Okay, if the line continues there, and we have another line there, and we probably normally have a line there. So we call these lines that we don't indicate on this stuff a ledger line. If we normally have a note above these 4 lines and 4 spaces, we add in extra lines like we see here, and we call these just lines ledger lines to represent the note that's very high up this and it's a high pitch. So coming back here, we're running this up, so we have the D, E, F, okay, and then we have a continue G, A, come back A, and then I have a B, and we have a C, okay? So G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, so now automatically we know that this dot here is A. Actually, Praise, yeah, sorry, it's A. I was thinking of a middle C for some reason. I think middle C is here at the bottom.
Mm.
Or C, we will have C praise if we go down. So this is what? G. So we have more lines there and more lines there. That's our ledger line. So if we have G, we're going to have A, B, C, D, E, F. That's going to be F. That's going to be E. That's going to be D. And that's going to be C.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But so in this case, we have, this is going to be A. So we can do the same for each and every of these notes here. Okay, so we know that this is G, this line here is G, because we know that every good boy deserves
Fanta.
Fanta, sorry, that's F. That line is F there. Okay, now we know that that's F. Okay, so we can just continue to say F, and that space will be G, that space will be A, because we're going back to, we're not going to H, we're going back to A. We're going to now continue B, and we have to C, and then this note here is D. Okay, because if we extend that line there, and we extend that line there. This note is on the space of this D. Do we understand? Is it clear?
Yes, yeah.
Exactly. So it's the same thing we'll have for remember the bass clef is different from our bass clef. That's the mnemonic for the treble clef. Okay. And our bass clef is different. For bass clef, we have all cows eat grass for the space, and then for the lines, every good green birds don't fly away, or good boys does fine always. Okay. I hope this was helpful. We will recap next time. Are there any questions? Any questions? We'll make the recording available to those who couldn't make it, and then so that at least some have connection problems as well, and also people are in a noisy environment. Okay, Patlego, you're welcome. Okay, so let's see if this time is not convenient for us, then we can maybe work around another time. But probably let me know if the time is fine later during the week, and then if it's fine, we can continue. If it's not, then we can think of a better time. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope we learned something from this. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, and God bless. I will post this video, the recording, on the group. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so